Where do you think we form our financial habits?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, marketing is real. The things that we watch and the things that we listen to, I think they definitely influence us. To my mother and her sisters, who they all enjoyed shopping, used to say, y'all don't like money. Y'all love stuff. So as soon as you get some money, you go run and give it to the store people and say, here's the money, give me the stuff, hurry, quick. Right.
What's up, everyone? It's Tori Hicks, your startup guru and mental health therapist. I'm so excited that at this moment we are closing out a full month of mental health awareness activities. It's been an amazing time where we've addressed everything from having an author here to talk about her sexual assault experience. We had an amazing open mic therapy night, and we waited until today to address something that all business owners need to address, and that's finances. We waited to the end because sometimes we think that finances is the reason why businesses or nonprofits don't survive, and sometimes that is the case, but usually there's holistic areas that we haven't addressed yet. So we're talking about it now. Finances, specifically the generational trauma that leads to a lack of finances for business and nonprofits or entrepreneurs in general. And I'm so excited to have an expert in that industry here with me today. We have Dwan Dandridge of Black Leaders Detroit here. And this is the expert in this industry. And I know he does a lot of other things, but I just want to pause right now and ask you to give it up for him coming in today.
Well, thanks, Tori, for having me. Appreciate it. It's interesting hearing myself described as an expert or the expert, right? I think we're just having a conversation saying that oftentimes when we start a cause and lead an effort is because we're practitioners, right? So I think, if I would really take ownership of that title that you so generously gave to me, I would say what makes me experienced or maybe an expert is because I've experienced the struggle of leading an initiative or leading a nonprofit or leading a cause and a for-profit business as well with limited and lack of the proper resources and capital necessary to expand, thrive, scale those initiatives, and often doing it out of my pocket and, seeing white-led organizations, white-owned businesses in a city like Detroit, where we're the majority, seeing them be able to access the resources necessary to, build upon the impact that their organizations are having. Just wanting to figure out what was the gap, what are they doing differently other than being white that we could incorporate. And, was fortunate enough to work inside an organization that was a white-led nonprofit for 4 years and gained a lot of experience, learned a lot about, the way that they approach running the organization, and was able to implement and incorporate some of those practices into what we're doing at Black Leaders Detroit, and more than happy to share.
I definitely have so many things I want to dive into, especially with my background as a nonprofit, was a nonprofit for 20 years. So definitely want to talk about the difference between businesses and nonprofits. But before we get there, just want the audience to learn a little bit more about Black Leaders Detroit and how you got there.
Yeah, I would love to share. So Black Leaders Detroit is a nonprofit based in Detroit. And if I was to, put it as plainly as possible, I would say that we provide capital to entrepreneurs of African descent, right? And when we use the term entrepreneur, we are talking about the for-profit and nonprofit entrepreneurs. We provide grants to a combination of nonprofits and for-profits, but we also provide no interest loans to the for-profit sector. And, really proud to say that, based on all the generous people that have poured into the pot and a dynamic team that I'm fortunate to be a part of, we've surpassed the $7 million deployed directly to entrepreneurs of African descent in Detroit.
That's amazing. We got to give it up for the amount of impact that you've made through that organization thus far.
Yeah, when I talk about like what we do and what we've done, I often like to say I feel like we're just scratching the surface. There's so much that we want to do and I believe we're going to do. But oftentimes the listener hear the grants and the no interest loans, and their go-to, understandably so, is, man, how can I make sure that I'm on their radar, and what do I need to do to position myself to get something from that pot? And what we want people to hear is both sides, right? We need them to hear, how do we put into that pot, right? Our long-term fundraising strategy is counting on people that believe in fairness. Often us, right? I don't know if anybody believes in fairness as much as we do, because we've been on the bad side of, things that are unequal or unfair, right? But what we want people to hear is an invitation that we extend to people that believe in fairness, and we ask people to donate $1 a week. Our goal is to get 1 million people making $1 a week commitment. So we'll be able to raise $52 million a year, increase that pot, and we can multiply that $7 million. There's so much more need, and we have the ability. We've funded so many other initiatives. There's so many organizations, companies that have been built off of either our generosity or our belief in their product or their service.
I see you. I see you delivering and awarding the checks. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
So how common is it I don't hear about no interest loans. Yeah. That's not very common. So in the city of Detroit, how many organizations are actually doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so there are some initiatives. The city of Detroit actually had a no interest loan for people that wanted to do home repairs, right? It was a special initiative. I'm not sure if it's still around. But for us, the thought of the no interest loan is a biblical principle, right? Looking at, there's a passage in Exodus that talks about it, but also in Nicodemus that talks about it. And when, some of the Israelites were loaning to their fellow men and women, and they were charging them interest rates, and they were hurting, right? And they were chastised for, I'm sorry, I said it's Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah. So just making sure y'all listening. So taking the biblical principle from there, I am, somewhat a visionary, and we announced that we were going to provide grants and no interest loans before I knew anything about how to do it, right? And we were very fortunate, as you say, how many others are doing it. There are organizations called Hebrew Free Loans, right? And most people have never heard of them. I had never heard of them before 2019. And Hebrew Free Loans, they have them all over the globe. Well, the one in Michigan's been around for 130 years now.
Wow.
And I was able to meet the executive director, David Contour, who's become a really good friend of mine. And they actually shared their blueprint with us, right? They don't loan to anybody that's not Jewish, but we're okay with that because they gave us
the blueprint.
What a blessing. That's much more valuable, right? Because we were able to take that blueprint, tweak it a little bit, and roll it out for our community. And we have so far done 245 loans out the door. And again, we're just getting started.
And I love the biblical components because even from a financial standpoint, we're called to be great stewards of our resources. And that's definitely what you all are doing. How long have you been with Black Leaders Detroit?
I am the founder, I like to say co-founder, right? I had an idea and took it to some people that are, smart enough to help take an idea and turn it into an organization. So we launched October 26th of 2019. And I came on full time as the CEO in 2021. I was actually working for another nonprofit while starting Black Leaders Detroit. And, things had picked up in 2020 and started to grow so fast that I was able to leave my other job and start doing this full time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and jump into this because I know everybody wants to know. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the requirements of the no interest loans because I know we have some entrepreneurs in the building, some that are listening. So we're going to go ahead and knock this out. So
let's do it.
What is required to apply and receive a no interest loan from Black Leaders Detroit?
So you're a for-profit organization operating inside Detroit. You have been in business for at least a year, and the majority of your ownership is someone of African descent. So that is the starting point. right?
Okay.
If you are wondering what is the requirement when as it relates to credit score, we've loaned to people with, credit scores in the 500s, right? We do a soft credit pool. We are looking at your credit history and your credit story, right? Oftentimes there's somebody that may have a low credit score because they've gone through something. After COVID, everybody had,
Something.
some challenges, right? And the decision makers, myself not being one of them, right? We have a governing body that we call our funding board. They make decisions on the loan request of $10,000 or more. And they're real people that have had their own set of challenges at some point or another, right? Or their family members have. So now if we look at your credit history and you just don't pay people back, we're not gonna loan you any money, right? But if you're somebody that, have gone through some type of challenge that we can ask and you can, explain it to us, then we wanna hear from you, right?
And I'm glad you shared that. It sounds so much easier because we work with businesses and nonprofits, and I think there's this fear when we talk about loans, and they're like, "Oh, I won't qualify." Well, you don't know unless you ask and you find out what the requirements are. And so it's not about what I'm hearing, Dwan. It's not about your credit score. It's not just about that. I mean, there's other things that you consider, but it's worth at least taking the starting points to find out not only if you qualify, what you need to do to fix the things that need to be adjusted.
100%, right? Like, don't give yourself a no.
Right.
Let somebody else give you a yes or a no, right? There are, I think that oftentimes when we walk away from and get denied funding as entrepreneurs, we walk away wondering, man, was I not qualified? Or is this pot of money really not set up for us? Well, you don't have to worry about that with us, right? Like if you don't end up getting funding from us, it's not going to be because you're Black, right? Like that's not going to work against you here. So at least you have that fear squashed when coming into the door. We've had people say to us, I haven't applied anywhere else because, I don't believe that, I would have made it across the finish line, receive funding. We also had people say, I've applied everywhere else and everybody denied us except for you. And we've had, one of my favorite stories is brother came, I met a brother at the Eastern Market and he said, when I first heard about y'all, I thought it was a scam, right? Like nobody's created a resource like this for us. They said, but a couple friends of mine ended up getting funding from y'all and I decided to look into it. And that brother was able to get a loan from us and his business is doing really well.
So love mental health. That's why we're here, to provide holistic resources, mentally, physically, financially. So you're tapping into some of those mental health challenges or stigmas. Why is it such this idea or this feel that this is not real, or I'm not going to be approved, and not even desiring to try because I run into it all the time with our clients? Where does that stem from?
Yeah, I don't want to pretend to be all knowing on this, but I will share some of my thoughts.
Please.
Right? Again, I was an entrepreneur myself, and I had a business that, if I'm being honest, there were times when nobody should have loaned me money because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
I appreciate your honesty.
So nobody should have loaned me any money. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was an honest person. I was able to sell a job. I was able to finish and complete a job and provide a service. I didn't know how to make my business profitable because I'd spent so many time learning how to do the thing and not learning how to run the business. And I find that, common amongst some, startup for-profit businesses. Sometimes people are so good at being a barber or a beautician or a baker. They're great at that part, right? Because they got grandma's recipe and making these cakes forever. And they're delicious, right? And they can, figure out a way to dress up a place and make it nice. But the business side of things is what I was lacking. So, I came to grips with the fact that I sucked as a business person. I decided to spend time learning all the things that I did not understand. I got a business coach. It got much better. And then I ended up with a business partner, and we were doing some pretty. We were doing some of the best residential construction that was happening in the city of Detroit at one time.
Wow.
And we were not able to get a loan from, some of the CDFIs in the city. And it stopped us from growing and scaling our business. And we were providing jobs for Detroiters, right? Like we were very intentional in making sure. At one time we had 20 brothers that had, were returning citizens. They came home and got some certifications in asbestos abatement, lead abatement, you name it. And we were able to employ all of them and keep them working for a time. And had we been able to get access to some capital to scale and grow, I believe our business would have thrived and done some pretty big things. So understanding that experience is not one that is, I'm the only person that's gone through that. So many of us have that. And then so many of us tell that story, right? So I think that's where some of the fear comes in. Even if we haven't experienced it, we've heard a friend or a family member share that with us. So I think that's where some of that trauma comes from, right? It's like you look at your peers that are running the same type of business and they may not be Black, and you look and you're like, man, like I'm at least as good as them, right? And if somebody gave me a real shot and some real resources, who knows where we would be, you know what I mean? And not to mention all of the times when we have made it and we have built industry, we have built thriving communities financially, and there's some diabolical initiative to distract it and disrupt it, right? We can run through the urban renewal or the Tulsa, Oklahomas, or you name it. Like every major city where we are has their story. I was riding my bike with some Jewish friends of mine and reminding them that, most communities that started as immigrants, which everybody did, right?
Right.
Had that story of my grandfather came over here with, $5 in his pocket, you know what I mean? And built whatever they built. And I was just reminding them that that's our story too, right? Like we built some stuff. We built several times, right? The difference is when we build, there is an intentional effort to take away and destroy what we build and make sure that somebody else is benefiting from the things that we've created, right? And
what is the cause of that?
I would say systemic racism, right? Evil, like you name it. You know what I mean? Not, being so concerned with getting to the heart of people, but I think that there is an obvious reality that, people are not comfortable with Black folk being self-sufficient. That dollar a week, 1 million people making a contribution that came from experience that I was fortunate to have. In 95, I went to the Million Man March, and there was a 1.2 million brothers is the count that was given. And there was a moment when we were all asked to go in our pockets and pull out $1, at least $1, and hold them in the air. And what was said, I could never forget, is that here's what they fear: us coming together collectively with our economics. Because if we do that, we solve our own problems. Right? And the problem that we're looking to solve at Black Leaders Detroit is the gap in accessing capital. But I think there's so many of us out here looking to solve problems, and I'd love to see us have the resources we needed.
How important is financial education? So I'm originally from Michigan, lived in Atlanta for 14 years, went to grad school there. Grew up working around John Hope Bryant, Operation Hope, and see the power of that financial literacy for people that may not have that dollar or may not get the generational training that we need from a financial standpoint. So how important is financial literacy in bridging that gap? And I'm speaking from us taking responsibility to learn or unlearn what we have.
Yeah, I think it's huge, right? And I'm not not married to it looking one way. I think that there are some very formal ways that financial literacy is taught. I think one of the things that I try to teach my children and I try to model is one of the ways that I practice discipline in finances is regulating my desires. We've gone from the talk of everybody wanting to be a millionaire, right, to now everybody wants to be a billionaire, and I'm not sure why. You know what I mean? People feel the need to go after, other than wanting stuff. And I get wanting to leave legacy and wanting to leave things, but I think my approach is, making sure that I don't want something just because, there's something new coming out. And when I find myself wanting to spend more money or wanting more stuff, I do a evaluation of myself, and I realized about Dwan is the more things I have, the more things I need to take care of, the less time I have to give to people, the less I'm able to care for people, the more possessions that I have. So, and I say that as we're talking about the importance of financial literacy, because if I look at my own family, right, as it relates to the relationship with money, I've seen family members come into large sums of money and end up giving too much away and spending too much on stuff, right? And that's where I was able to look and say, man, I'm susceptible to doing the same thing because these are my teachers, right? The people that I've watched, and having a generous heart and being giving. You need to make sure that I'm not giving to the point where I'm transferring the need, right? So now I gave so much that now I need somebody to give to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm sorry, I can go on for days.
No, this is
about
good.
This, and yeah.
I saw a post and it was actually a little disturbing, but it kind of hit, my heart. And it was a group of people of color. It was a group of Caucasians, and it said this group works hard for power, gets their money for power, and this group works hard to get things. Mm-hmm. And it was disturbing. Do you believe that there's some truth to that?
Yeah, to a degree, right? I saw a friend, Eric Thomas, post on Facebook the other day, and he was like, man, can y'all please stop going hard on the kids spending money on prom? He's like, I promise y'all that it's not the cause of years of systemic racism, and ran off some things. So there's a part of me that is very paternalistic, and I can be judgy if I'm not careful, right?
Yeah.
And I can see some folks doing some things, and I'm like, you don't have the money to be doing that. You know what I mean? But again, it's if somebody's getting ready to do something that's going to bring them joy, what may feel irresponsible to me may be something that is helping them from a mental health standpoint, right? They may be experiencing some joy they've been deprived of, right? It's what it's like when somebody, my parents were 15 and 16 when they had me. My dad did 1 year of high school, right? Wow. So seeing his kids have educational accomplishments, right? He's living vicariously through his children, right? So I think that we need to have, a more kind of robust conversation when we're having these conversations, and take the many things into consideration, right? And again, I can be very paternalistic if I'm not careful. And I always think I know what's best for somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
And not to mention social media is always one-sided. You don't even know the whole story. Yeah. So I agree with you totally. Where do you think we form our financial habits?
Oh, that's a good question. Marketing is real, right? It's the things that we watch and the things that we listen to, I think they definitely influence us, right? And if we're watching a bunch of you know, people that appear to be rich, even if they're not rich,
Here,
right?
that part.
Driving like, really fancy cars that, or wearing like really big jewelry or like all of the things, My Uncle Emmett used to say to my mother and her sisters, who they all like, enjoyed shopping, used to say, y'all don't like money. Y'all love stuff. So as soon as you get some money, you go run and give it to the store people and say, here's the money, give me the stuff, hurry, quick, right? And I think that, it would probably benefit us to maybe turn off of some of that messaging that we're getting, it's because it's powerful.
Is that cultural? Is that a race thing? Is that what you just described? Is that?
I don't know if it's a race thing, but it is what's marketed to you, right? When I worked at Ford, my white friends and colleagues, they probably wasn't going to like spend money on the same things that some of us would, but they would have a house up north, right? Or they wanted a boat, right? Now, obviously those are assets, but it's also something you got to go take care of, right? Something you got to be committed to going up there on the weekends to cut the grass and winterizing it and, going to get it ready for the spring and the summer and all of those things. But if a summer house, again, like gives them joy and a Rolex gives someone else joy, I don't know, right? Like, I just think that for me, I'm turning all that stuff off. When I find myself like wanting this and wanting that, I'm like, there's too many messages getting in, and I need to police some of that and have some control over it.
And why is that important for you to turn that off? Because we're human beings. So what I'm hearing you say, that there has to be a balance between your financial literacy and or saving and pleasure.
Yeah.
So why is that so important to you?
Because self-control is important to me, right? And if somebody else is making me or influencing me wanting something, I want to know if Dwan really wants this, if this is really important to Dwan, or if I'm being manipulated, because I don't want to be manipulated, right?
Right.
So that's why I'm making it more personal than I am like cultural or, for the broader group. That is like very important to me on a personal level. If it is something that I desire or I need, right? Like I bike a lot, and I just, told my wife for Father's Day, can y'all get me a gift certificate to the bike store? You know what I mean? So I want some new bike shoes. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's something that will give me joy. I'll probably spend more money than I need to on that hobby.
Because that's your thing.
That's my thing. But
it still sounds like self-control because you have your thing.
To a degree, you know what I mean? Like, to a degree. If I can get, those algorithms tend to find you.
Yes,
you know
they
what I mean?
do.
So like, they hear me talking about it now. So by the time I get home, I'm going to have a bunch of stuff from, bike stores coming on my timeline. So now it's going to be me trying to like fight and have some self-control. But, only thing I'm going to have is whatever they put on the gift certificate to the store. That's the only thing I'm going to have to spend this go round.
So from a standpoint of just raising children or teaching children that have no idea of how to save or anything, I know, I feel like I'm blessed. My mom always talked to us early on about life insurance, about all these things, like she ironed it in our head. Like, I can't get it out of my mind. And I know that I was blessed. So for a young person or even someone in the audience, like, what are those keys, the tools that you need to, whether it's breaking down generational stuff that maybe you haven't been taught about life insurance? What are some of those keys to, I'm not even going to say wealth, but I'll say financial sustainability?
Yeah. So I'll talk to the young people first. There is a dynamic sister that works in that space, Gail Perry Mason. And Gail Perry Mason has something that she calls Money Matters. And she's been teaching young people how to have a healthy relationship with money from an investing standpoint for years here in the city of Detroit. So if you're in Detroit and you're a parent of a young person and you want to help them, or if you're a young person yourself, try to get in touch with Gail Perry Mason. She does some really cool stuff. I think she just took them on a trip to Dave Chappelle's city, where he's buying up everything.
Nice.
Right? They got a chance to meet Dave Chappelle. They also went, I think the first of the year, they rang the bell on Wall Street, right? So those are some of the cool things. But the real thing she's doing is training and teaching, a healthy relationship with money, how to invest. And I mean, Google is still king, right? Like you can Google and find, don't be scared. And be scared to not know, right? Yeah. Like, don't be intimidated by it. I know that it can be scary if you haven't, and you find yourself as old as me, and you just get introduced to it for the first time. But there are people that are passionate about breaking it down and making it make sense on a very basic level. So I would say get out there and get access to the information. I find myself just in love with education, somebody that has not gone the traditional route when it comes to education. Like most of the things that I've learned by going and studying under somebody that does something well, But I've also been fortunate enough to take, courses at Harvard, you know what I mean? And just continued education in any area. And this is such an important one that we all should, take it seriously enough to, not let the next generation inherit the lack of understanding that we might have inherited, right?
Yes.
Let's just cut it off right here.
Yes. And so for adults that may have missed it, because there's some things I missed, what are some steps that they can take right now to break some of that generational trauma with the finances? What do we do?
I'm going to give some names, right? Claude Anderson, right? And then the brothers from Earn Your Leisure. Right? If you are somebody that's not going to go and take a course, those are some people that you should probably be following because they're going to introduce you to the information. The brothers from Earn Your Leisure, they have a podcast and they're going to have people on there that can help you learn how to invest, as well as, what it means to have a healthier relationship and understanding with financial literacy.
And so what I'm hearing is follow the people that are doing the thing. I know we follow things that look flashy, that look great, but follow people that are authentic and doing the thing. And I'm going to go ahead.
And care about us.
And care about us.
Yes.
And I'm going to add to the list John Hope Bryant, who I've been blessed to work around as well. We're going to take a quick pause to see if our audience has any questions for our amazing guest. Are there any questions for him about Black Leaders Detroit and the loan process or anything?
I have a question, Tori. Does the organization loan to anyone, or are you saying that there aren't any requirements to make?
Okay, so the question was, does Black Leaders Detroit loan to anyone, or recapping the requirements. So again, in order to qualify, you have to be your business. You don't have to live in Detroit, but your business has to be in Detroit. The borrower has to be, or the applicant has to have been in business for at least a year. And again, majority of the company needs to be owned by an entrepreneur of African descent, right? So that is the starting point for us. So if you check all those boxes, then we want to hear from you. And you can go to blackleadersdetroit.org and get all of the information. You're definitely going to be able to see where you can join now and donate that $1 a week or that $4 a month and $52 a year. But you'll also be able to find out all about our Norges loans and other initiatives.
Any other questions for Dwan?
What is considered being in business? You just have an LLC, or Can you explain that more?
Yeah, so the question is, what do we consider being in business? Actually, operating a business, meaning you are have been either providing a service or a product, right? Now, if you have an LLC and it's just on the books and you haven't done anything with it, but it's been around for a year, like, we need to see activity. For us, what we're looking for is you've invested in it before you asking us to invest in it, right? Like, we want to know that, like, you have some traction and you're not just saying, hey, like, I've been thinking about doing something, and now that y'all got some money for me to do it, I'll give it a try. You know what I'm saying? No, we're not betting on you if you ain't betting on yourself.
A fact. 100. Anyone else? Okay. Dwan, thank you so much for stopping by our Mental Health is Wealth podcast, especially to close out Mental Health Awareness Month, to talk about what everybody talks about, and that's finances, specifically for us, breaking down that generational trauma related to finances so that we can build wealth and our businesses and nonprofits can be holistically healthy.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Can I plug a bike ride that we got coming
Absolutely.
up?
And share how we get in contact with you, all that good stuff.
So for the last 5 years, we've done a bike ride. Most of the time, that bike ride has been going from Detroit to Mackinac, so a 377-mile bike ride. Last year, we rode from Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma to Wall Street, New York.
Very cool.
So a 1,640-plus mile bike ride. Well, starting this year, that bike ride is going to be in Detroit, focused on Detroit, riding around Detroit. We're actually going to come up Livernois and ride through Black business corridors, past and present. So there'll be 4 days of activities kicking off August 27th with a slow roll bike ride and a 5K run. The slow roll bike ride is going to be led by our partners, Slow Roll Detroit, and the 5K is going to be led by our partners, We Run 313.
Yes.
And Friday, we're going to have a community conversation with people from a bunch of different ethnic backgrounds coming together to figure out what does it mean to be good neighbors to each other. That's going to be August 28th. And then August 29th and 30th will be the rides for people that want to ride a bigger distance. We'll have a 30-mile ride option and a 70-mile ride option. And we'd love to have, your listeners, your audience, and even you come and join us.
Well, you have my commitment. And where is there somewhere where they can sign up for?
So you can go to blackleadsdetroit.org or you can go to rideforunity.org. You'll be able to find a place to register, sign up, and you can create a team if you've got some friends and family that want to come out and ride with you, or you can sign up as an individual. And if you aren't able to ride for some reason or another, but you still want to support, you can go there and make a donation as well and support one of the other people that are going to come out and ride.
Yes. Follow good people. That's my message. Follow the people that are making measurable impact is what I always share. You heard it from Dwan Dandridge. We're here at Mental Health is Wealth podcast. We drop every month with a special guest that address mental health for entrepreneurs holistically. So we'll see you back here next month. Let's get it. Thank you. That was so good. It always goes by so fast. I had